Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast. As always, presented by our friends over at ScentLock. I've got a special guest, a new guest on the line with me. I've got Frank Ragnow, who is the starting center for the Detroit Lions. Frank, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Man, I am better than I deserve. And I can tell you what, just so everybody's listening, I'm not a fan of the Lions. I could care less about the Lions. But what I am a fan of is the Arkansas Razorbacks. And Frank was a Razorback. Frank, how long were you at Arkansas?
4 years.
4 years. Nothing against you, but 4 of Arkansas's worst years.
Yeah, honestly, recently it was tough. It was tough. We had some decent years. We won, I think my sophomore year we won 8, I think. But otherwise, yeah, the downfall was tough.
Okay, so you were there before the dry spell of no SEC wins.
I was there before Chad Morris.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I am. I'm excited to have you on, man. I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. I grew up in Van Buren, Arkansas. Me and my wife actually just went to watch the Battle Line rivalry. For those of you who don't know, that's Arkansas versus Missouri. So we went over Thanksgiving break, shot some deer in Arkansas, and then went to the game. So that was a great Thanksgiving break. And I'm excited to talk some hunting with you, man. I've got a bow. I don't know if you've seen it. I got a new recurve, and I had a custom Selway archery quiver made with a Razorback branded in it.
Yeah.
Got red strings on it, and I call it Tusk. So that's my favorite bow for sure.
Tusk, the freaking enforcer.
Yeah. Yep. So tell me quick, man, how did you get into hunting? Where was your start in hunting?
Probably with my dad. I'm trying to think. The first time I went, I think, was deer hunting. We used to go, my dad was a hunter, but he wasn't like a crazy big hunter, but he's who got me in. We used to go up north in Minnesota for opener, the first opening weekend for rifle, and then the following weekend. And we kind of did that as a tradition. But then he got me into, I've got family down in South Dakota. So we do a lot of bird hunting, pheasant hunting down there. But he was probably the one who got me really introduced to it.
Pheasant hunting is one of my favorite things on planet Earth to do. I absolutely love pheasant hunting.
Oh, especially if you got a good dog. It is beautiful.
I don't have a good dog, but my dog's worthless. But I still love pheasant hunting for sure.
Oh yeah, it's sweet, man. It's a good time.
So walk me through how that works. I've never got to talk to a professional fall athlete and a hunter. I've talked to a lot of baseball players who are hunters, but those seasons overlap. I mean, perfectly. You don't
Yeah.
you don't get the fall off. And so I'm curious to know, and here's why I ask. Well, I'll tell you why I ask, but how does that kind of overlay work? How does that, do you get a lot of time to go hunting in the fall?
No. And honestly, I haven't been able to go deer hunting until I got hurt this year. So I was able to go this year. Otherwise, I haven't been since college. But we get like, so in the fall for football, we get Tuesdays off, and that's it. So you can pull off maybe an afternoon sit every once in a while, but otherwise it's pretty dang tough. So I turkey hunt in the spring. I've done some hog hunting, which you can basically do whenever you want, and whatever I can to get my fix. But so far it's been tough to get deer hunting. But recently this fall, because I was hurt, and so when you're hurt, basically your regimen is you don't go to meetings, you don't go to practice, you just go to rehab and try to get better. So I had a lot of freedom. So I was able to get permission from a couple guys, did some hunting, and then hopefully next year I'll have it set up so that I can at least sneak out, maybe even on a bye week or on a Tuesday.
So how does that, because again, you look at location. I mean, so not only are you busy, but I would imagine being in Detroit, I mean, you can't just walk in your backyard and start hunting.
No
So
doubt.
there's got to be a little bit of you know challenges or barriers to cross that way to get out and to get hunting. And Frank, I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but I really want to. I want to inspire that person who says I'm too busy to hunt. I want to inspire that person that says, I live in New York, or I live in LA, or I live in the hunting opportunities aren't there. And so I don't think there's many busier people in the fall than an NFL professional football player, and living in Detroit. So we're going to cross those two barriers at once, essentially. So what kind of barriers do you have to jump through? Living in Detroit, what kind of barriers do you have to jump through to go hunting?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, uh, not much land locally. But I mean, if you drive 45 minutes really each direction, you can get into a little bit more, I guess, suburban slash rural land. And I got lucky. I mean, I found I was trading in my vehicle and I was talking to my car salesman about hunting, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I got 40 acres here." I mean, it's pretty suburban, but it's just enough to be able to hunt. And shoot, I snuck out. I just snuck out in the afternoon every once in a while and tried to pull it off. I mean, it took like I wasn't able to put together like multiple days in a row of hunting, right? So, and I really wasn't able to factor wind or really do any, I guess, correct, uh, educated hunting. It was kind of just, hey, go sit the afternoon and see. Hopefully, everything goes our way, you know. And I was able to pull. I put a big doe in the freezer, so I was happy about it.
Yeah, and that's number one I want to say. Point of advice is you hear all these guys, and you'll hear me say it is, the wind was bad so I couldn't go hunting, or I didn't get to sit my number one spot because the wind was bad, so I went into a B spot or a reserve spot, whatever.
Mhm.
You'll hear guys like that talk. Now, I want to say this though: if your opportunities are limited, um, whether you're too busy or whether land is sparse, and if you do want to hunt, it's a 2 hour 3 hour drive to find land. um don't waste opportunities. Like, take the opportunities when they come. Don't listen to the guys say, well, it's bad wind, don't go hunt. Well, if you've only got 2 or 3 days in a year to go out and sit in a tree stand, by all means, you don't waste one because you say, well, it's not, the cold front didn't come, or it's not, I don't have the right wind. You take the chances you can get and you go hunting. um Frank, what would you say for the guy who says I'm too busy? What would you say your number one piece of advice is?
I mean, if you, for me, like time wise, time is your most valuable asset. So if you're too busy, you're just saying that that's not your top priority, and you're saying you have better priorities, in my opinion, because if you really value and care about something, you're going to do it. And if you're going to find time to do it.
I really want to. I wish that I could have like one of those buttons. Like at a live recording TV show, I could press a button and it would applaud you right now. I wish I could say that, because I'm sick and tired of hearing people say two things: I don't have the time, or I don't have the money. Um, well, listen, and I don't mean to be pushy. I don't mean to be. I understand that I'm in a predicament that a lot of people aren't. I get to work in the outdoor industry for a living. I understand that, but I didn't. That wasn't the case just not too long ago. I had a 9 to 5 just 18 months ago. So I'm not too far removed from this. I've got 3 kids. I've got a wife. I understand what it's like to be busy, but I also understand that hunting is my passion, and I'm gonna make time for that. Now you've got to set your priorities straight. I'm not gonna run my family because I want to go hunting. I'm not gonna run my job because I want to go hunting. I'm gonna set my priorities straight. But if I don't get to go to a movie premiere, or a Christmas dinner or whatever, because I want to go hunting, so be it. But the hunting is more important to me. Um, so I would just say, yeah, you've absolutely got to prioritize your hunting. And if hunting's not going to be a huge priority for you, that's fine. But don't expect much out of it either. Um, you know, those guys who are killing 180s, 190s, they're spending countless days in the field. They're out there working their tail ends off, and it's a priority to them. So I would just say you got to make it a priority. And then as far as financially goes, and we'll get into the inner city land aspect here in a minute, but as far as financially goes, quit buying a coffee every day, and that saves you a ton of money right there. And then all of a sudden you can afford it. Quit buying a carton of cigarettes or a can of dip. Quit buying those things. If I hear people say all the time, I wish I could afford to go on cool hunts like that. And I'm like, I know it cost me $2,000 to go on that hunt, but I also didn't spend $2,000 buying Starbucks coffee this year. That's a big difference.
Yep.
I didn't spend $2,000 going out to the casino. Again, I financially made hunting a priority. And I think I had a guy make fun of me one time because I said my hunting budget. And he said, your wife makes you stay on a hunting budget, boy. It's bad to be you. And I'm like, really? Because, I get that hunting budget in July and June when I'm not really hunting. So I'm just setting that back for the fall. And then I have money to spend to go on hunts. So but work that into your budget. Work hunting into your budget and make it a priority. Set aside $10 a month. Set aside whatever you can afford to a month, $100 a month. Setting aside $100 a month gives you $1,200 to go on a big hunt every year. You can go to Colorado on over-the-counter elk hunt for $1,200. So set those things aside, and all of a sudden you can afford to go on these hunts. Frank, I'm interested because I'm in rural Kansas. Like I can walk literally out of my backyard and see deer. So what would you say to the guy who does want to start hunting, or want more opportunities to hunt, but they live in inner city, big city, there's no land available, they don't know how to go about finding land? What would you say to those guys?
Honestly, I would say if you can find it, the deer are probably going to be bigger and untouched. So yeah, honestly, I it just comes down to looking at a map and looking at a website and trying to find out that who might have possibly some land that you could hunt, and I guess knocking on their door and asking. I guess it helps me because I'm a Detroit Lion, so that definitely doesn't hurt my cause being in Detroit. But it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst thing that can happen is you get a no, and then you're just on to the next one. And it's over. So I think just keeping pursuing it and keep asking around, because if you hit one of those parcels of land that might be near the city but just far enough or whatnot, it's probably got some good deer there.
It also probably doesn't help that you stand over somebody and you just tower over them and you're like, can I hunt your ground?
How you doing, man? Out your ground?
You got a gun in one hand and a Bible in the other. And they're like, you can do whatever you want, sir. Just get off my porch.
No doubt.
And then if that doesn't work, then you say I'm a Detroit Lion. Then they're like, oh yeah, you can hunt.
Yeah, dude, go ahead.
No, I think that's a huge barrier of entry that stops a lot of people. It's like, well, I don't have the land. I don't do the public ground thing, or I don't live anywhere near public ground. And that's a huge barrier of entry. And man, somewhere we've lost the goal, or maybe it's the intelligence. And again, it goes back to prioritizing. Like if you really want to hunt, you'll find a way.
Yep, exactly.
But we've lost that drive to go out and spend weeks knocking on doors, days knocking on doors. I spend probably 2 weeks a year. I set out and I knock on doors all day long. Now listen, let's give some advice here. Don't look like Frank when you go to the door. You're intimidating. No, I'm just kidding. But really though, guys, don't go up to the door wearing camouflage and face paint with blood on your boots from last week. Don't do that. You're going to intimidate people. You're going to scare people. Look presentable. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was one of the juries, but I could be wrong. So nobody quote me on that. But I listened to an entire podcast of them talking about how to ask for permission. And might I say taking them a gift? Might I say, even if they say no, just saying, well, hey, I'm sorry to hear that, here's this or whatever. But look presentable. Don't roll up there with music blaring and you're spitting Copenhagen and you're jumping out of the car and hooping and hollering and acting like a bunch of wild banshees. Look and act presentable. Hey, I'm not afraid of pulling on heartstrings. I take my kids. But look presentable, look nice, look intelligent, look like you're not going to go out and blow up tannerite in the creek, even if you are going to. Look presentable. But it's a huge barrier of entry, and I think a lot of people just they use that as a way out. They're like, well, I don't have land to hunt. Do you have any certain way of, and I'm curious to know because I don't live in inner city. But do you have any tips to like networking to find people who might have land?
Uh, oh man, I don't know. No, I mean, I just talk. So like, it's a passion of mine. So I've been talking about it with people. Maybe I wouldn't even talk about like I said earlier. I was talking about I was buying this truck and I was talking about going hunting, and the guy's like, "Oh, I've got some land," and there it was. Like it's just. I think just the lesson or the advice I'd give is just if it's your passion, talk about it. And who knows, somebody else might know somebody. Maybe my car salesman wasn't the guy, but he knew a different car salesman. You never know. It doesn't hurt to just talk about it.
I would also say, and I've done this a lot, and it might be, again, I don't know where that barrier is in inner city, but I call my feed stores a lot. My grain elevators, I call them a lot, and I say, hey, would you guys happen to know any landowners that might let somebody hunt? And a lot of times they're like, oh yeah, man, I just had a guy pull in a load of corn, and I think he said his grandsons whatever, I think he said they were leasing it out. Yeah, maybe, hey, that'll work. And a lot of times they know somebody, or they know somebody who knows somebody who has family ground, or so I call my feed stores, I call my grain elevators. I hit the jackpot. I was at the ATA show last week, which is the Archery Trade Association, and we were staying in a hotel, and they had a farmers conference. It was like an ag ground conference, and so we're like, could you line up any better two conferences for bow hunters and for farmers in the same town in the same week? And so there was a whole lot of bow hunters walking around saying, hey, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Iowa. You got any land to lease to hunters? And it was hilarious, everybody walking around. But don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to reach out and just be willing to get the answer no. Now, before we go on, let me give a quick thank you to our friends over at Wiseye. Wiseye is the smartest trail camera that you could ever buy. It is a cellular trail camera, meaning I can open the app and check all my pictures right there. But it also works with an app inside of your phone that's called Hunt Control. So you open the Hunt Control app, and inside of that app, you can basically it'll map out, it'll have game recognition, so it'll put all of your bucks into different folders. So if I want to see all the pictures of a buck that I named the Big Eight, it'll put all of those pictures into one folder, and it'll give me graphical data. I don't know if graphical is a word. It'll graph out my data as far as when he came, dates, temperatures, moon phases. It'll map out all of those things, and it'll give me all that data so I can try to nail down when the best time to kill the Big Eight is. Go check out Wiseye. They are, in my opinion, the best trail camera you can get, and most certainly the smartest trail camera you can get. Frank, which I would almost imagine, going back to our whole barriers, I would almost imagine that somebody who lives in the inner city and it's an effort to get out there, it's an effort to go and get boots on the ground, I would almost say that is when a cellular trail camera becomes the most beneficial, because then all of a sudden you don't have to drive the 2 hours, you don't have to find a day to get out there and go look just to pull a trail camera. You can just open your app and check it right there. Have you ever used any cellular trail cameras?
1,000%. I didn't this year, but I have in the past for sure.
I can imagine that being quite a bit of a game changer.
That would be huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if that access and that time is so hard to obtain, my spots I can be to some of my spots in 5 minutes, most inside of 30 minutes. So I mean, I run cellular trail cameras in my out of state properties. So I drop them in Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas. That way I can check those cameras throughout the year. And again, that plays a huge difference in being able to check those cameras more than twice a year, more than just driving across the state. Oh, I better stop and grab my my SD. And so I can imagine inner city that could alleviate a lot of issues of, like you said I had to go out there unprepared. I hadn't scouted. We didn't have a good wind. Cellular trail cameras would be the best advice I could give somebody in that situation.
Yeah, 1,000%. Because then at least you could create some sort of plan.
So, Frank, I'm anxious to kind of dive into another topic here, and that is lessons learned in sports, and it doesn't have to be football specific, but lessons learned in sports. How does that translate to hunting and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like what I said earlier, the biggest lesson I've learned with football, and especially like that has helped me, or I've learned that what successful people do at my level, whether it was from high school all the way to college, that it's kind of all the way to the pros, that has helped me transition is like I said earlier, is time management and valuing and prioritizing your time. Because at the end of the day, push comes to shove, the guys who, I mean, they're everybody in the NFL right now, complete freak shows. I mean, there's some of the freakiest athletes, top to bottom. There might be some guys a little bit more athletic, but to be honest, the difference between a first string and a third string isn't as big as people think. And I think the thing that separates people, no matter what, is hard work, and that's your time, how much time you're willing to put in. It sucks because you have to sacrifice a lot of times, whether it's being social with friends or whatnot. But if you decide to put in that time and that hard work, I think the sky's the limit.
And it all goes back to this prioritizing what's important to you.
Yep.
Um, Man, I can't tell you how many times guys say, "You really shoot every day? Like you must not have anything else to do. You must not be busy." And I'm like, "Well, actually, I wake up at 6 a.m. just so I can shoot. Like
Yep.
I don't have to wake up at 6. I don't have anything to do until 8, but I wake up at 6 so that I can shoot." And they're like, "Oh, well, I wake up at 6 to go to the gym." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, because the gym is a priority to you."
Yep.
Which is fine. I work out in the afternoons, but my priority is shooting my bow daily shot or whether it's 100 shots. I might only get to shoot one shot a day, but I want to prioritize that time so that every single day I'm at least shooting my bow once. And it all comes back to being a priority. I'm
Like
curious.
if you look at like a lot of people have iPhones, right? You get your screen time. Tell me you don't get a thing that says that you didn't spend 15 minutes on like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is. Like that's 15 minutes easy you could devote to shooting every day. That a lot of people just sit there and they're sitting there scrolling and they don't realize how much they've scrolled.
Oh, it's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane. And then you sit there and tell me you don't have enough time to shoot your bow. And you're like, "Well, I'm scrolling at night in the dark. I can't shoot my bow in the dark." Listen, I don't care if you shoot your bow at 2 yards in the garage. I don't care if you shoot it in your basement. I don't care if you shoot it. I have a target in my basement that I can it's 8 yards. But if it's snowing or cold or dark or kids are sick or whatever and I can't get out to shoot my bow, at least I can practice the muscle memory and the repetition of shooting my bow. And you've just got to learn those things. Like you just have to make those sacrifices and make it a priority. What kind of lessons have you learned taking from the deer woods and applied it to sports or success in sports? And the reason I ask is because a lot of these people, a lot of people who are getting into hunting, are your, that 16, 17, 18-year-old kid who's just coming off of high school sports or, just coming off college sports or, they spent that was me. I grew up playing high school basketball and I never really devoted a lot of time to hunting until that was over. And then it was like, well, my falls are open. Now what do I do? Let's go hunt more. And so I'm curious to know if you took anything from hunting and vice versa, applied it to success in sports.
I'd say probably like something along the line of like patience and like trusting the process. So let's say you sit there, the wind is perfect, it's a cold front, and everything's supposed to happen. Tonight's supposed to be the night that you hammer a big deer, and it doesn't happen. The ability to just be patient and wait till the next great day, and just kind of trust what you're doing. I think that correlates a lot to sports because a lot of success in football or sports in general, it's not going to happen overnight, and there's going to be a lot of failure until you hit that success. But if you're trusting that process, you're being patient with the process, you'll reap the rewards.
I love it. I love it. And it is a process.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is a process. I recently took Joey Zatmary, who is a national champion strongman, took him on his first hunt, and he shot a doe. And I asked him as we sat there, and he sat behind his doe, big old, burly man sitting behind a doe, and he's all giddy, like you can't get him to stop. And I'm just like, so how was it, man? Tell me about the process. And he let out this sigh and he goes, well, it is a process. And I was like, yeah, it is. And, sometimes we lose faith in that. Sometimes we lose the idea of success, harvesting the trophy. We lose that because at this moment it sucks. Like at this moment it's hard. And we lose that idea of the joy of the success, and then we just let it all go to heck. Then we just give up, we quit, we pack it in early, and then we're never going to find the success. So it absolutely is a process. Walk me through kind of your progressional, because again, I'm interested to know, and I know that last season was a bit different. But on a normal year, what does that process look like for you?
Like just at work?
The process, yes, the communication between work and hunting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, my job, you're right, it's very sparse, your free time. Very, very sparse. So for me, it's like, all right, I need to prioritize knowing what I need to do on Sundays and being prepared, and not only mentally being prepared, but physically being prepared and knowing if my body's in the right position. So to kind of balance hunting with that, it's like, it's knowing that, hey, it's a Tuesday off. I need to take care of my body. So I need to go in for 2 to 3 hours, even if it's an off day, but to do hot tub, cold tub, and whatnot. But then, hey, but before watching film that night, maybe that afternoon, go and check a trail cam, go and check and make sure stands are okay. Just go scout a land or whatnot. And that's when it comes down to it. That's all I got. It's a 2 to 3 hour window, or that's it at most. And that kind of is what it is with the job. But at one day, hopefully, once football's over, then I'll be free to make it a huge priority and spend as much time as I want to doing it.
Now, for that person who maybe they're in the same predicament as you, and I don't think that I have a ton of NFL players that listen to this podcast, but what I mean by that is they're busy, they're inner city, they don't have a lot of time to get into the woods. What's the number one piece of advice or could be encouragement that you would give that person?
Probably like, it's just like, say people say set alone an hour or two for yourself in your life to take care of your mental health, right? Like this is if hunting is your passion and hunting is your love, hey, it's good to set aside 2 hours, an hour, hour and a half to do something towards that passion. And if whatever it is and that's your passion, you got to do it because it'll be good for not only your health, but then it'll help you make strides to where you want to be with it.
I love it, man. I love it. We live in a busy hustle bustle, grind it out, like never slow down, don't have any downtime type of world. And we view this whole I make time to shoot my bow. They're like, oh, yeah, it must be nice not having a real job. It must be nice being a kid. And like, and, and I'm like, but wait a second. In the same breath, you're cursing your next meeting that you have to walk into. Like, in the same breath, you're so incredibly stressed out and full of anxiety that you can't even function as an adult. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to talk bad about anybody, but it seems as though when I find time in those weeks where I consistently make time, and you're right, dude, it might be 10 minutes. Like, I might walk out and shoot 6 arrows and walk back in. That took me literally 10 minutes, but it was still time to shut out the rest of the world, to shut off emails, phone calls, voicemails, to cut off, whatever might else be happening in my day, and to just focus on what I want to focus on. And just that 10, 15 minutes a day, if I do that consistently, all of a sudden I had a good week. And it made the rest of my week better. And so I absolutely love that piece of advice, man, because we live in this world that views downtime as like a weakness or like you got to stay busy. And not only will it make me a better hunter to set that time aside and to say, this is what I'm going to do, whether I have to wake up early or stay up later, this is what I'm going to do. It'll make me a better hunter, but also it'll just make me a happier person. And if that's
100%, yeah.
And if that's golf for you, let it be golf. If that's gardening for you, let it be gardening. If that's working out, let it be working out. But find some sort of mental escape, because our society, all in all, would be a whole lot better if people would do it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, even if I can't, like something that always gets me through the NFL season because it's 12-hour days and it gets long and it's repetitive and you get beat up physically and mentally. But like something that I've always done at the end of the day when I'm done watching film and everything, right before I'm going to bed, I'll watch a couple YouTube videos, hunting and fishing. And that alone, that 30 minutes, that 15 minutes, that one video is such a good release for me to just relax and you kind of forget about everything.
Absolutely. I've got one more question for you. This is the Bear Archery Podcast. Fred Bear was big on his field notes. What's one piece of advice that you could give somebody from the field, one field note you've taken, that could make me a better archer or a better bow hunter? And I'm gonna share one. I don't share one every episode, but I want to share a product, and I have no tie to this product whatsoever. They don't know me, I don't know them, but Nose Jammer. I have become a believer in it. I called some friends a while back and had this new property, and I set it up the best way I knew how, and there was no good wind to hunt this. And so I was getting really frustrated, and I called some friends of mine and I said, how do I hunt this? What do I do here? And they said Nose Jammer. And I was like, whatever, dude. I'm not adding scent to the woods. I don't do that stuff. And lo and behold, I got so frustrated, I gave it a shot, and it worked. Now, here's what I want to tell everybody about Nose Jammer. I describe it as this. It is not a cover up everything, don't have to worry about your wind, go out dirty. That's not what this is. I describe it as a wind insurance. If a deer gets downwind of me and it stays there long enough, it's still going to smell me. But Nose Jammer might give me that extra 3 to 5 seconds that I need to make a shot before they figure out that there's something there they don't like. So Nose Jammer, that's my field note. I've become a believer in it this last year. Do you have any kind of field note tip for us?
I would say something that I've learned fishing and hunting is don't hunt a memory. What that means is, hey, you may have this piece of property that has this one stand that's the gold mine. Everybody calls it the gold mine stand, but that doesn't mean that should be your go-to stand that day or whatnot. Trust the wind, do trust the cold front, no, do some studying and figure out where that is. Don't always just hunt a memory.
My I believe it was Cuz Strickland that said this. Cuz Strickland from Mossy Oak. I believe he's the one that said it, but he said best stand is the one that has the best wind
Yep.
at any given time. You're right. I mean, I have my number one stands, and when you've got a good wind there, absolutely by all means, that's when I run in there and set it. But if I've got a bad wind for that set, that's not my best stand for the day. So I need to find a different stand to set. Before we go, I got to give a quick thank you to our friends over at the John V. Mesh Memorial Scholarship. John Mesh was a firefighter in the Kansas City area. He had a strong desire for getting his daughters and other kids involved into hunting. He died in the line of duty, protecting and serving, and his brother, a good friend of mine, Jim Mesh, started a memorial scholarship in his name. So now all over the country, they have these events to help raise money and get kids involved in the outdoors. And then they have a scholarship that they give to one student looking to make a living in conservation or in the outdoor world. And so sometimes I can become skeptical on non-for-profits and how much they really do. But this is one I am not skeptical of. So guys, please go check out the John V. Mesh Memorial Scholarship because they are the real deal. And I believe they make a real difference for kids all over America wanting to get involved in hunting. Frank, from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you so much for coming on. We've been trying to nail down each other for a bit, and it was an absolute pleasure. Man, I miss seeing you in a Razorback uniform, but I guess that's how it works, huh?
Yeah, dude. Hey, man, next time, maybe one day I make it down in Northwest Arkansas and I'm able to catch a game or whatnot, we should try to get hunting. That would be awesome.
There you go, man. There's a few players this year. Traylon Burks,
Oh yeah, dude.
I've chatted with him a couple times about coming on the show. Never did get to nail him down. Bumper Pull. He shot a nice deer in Texas last week. Nice deer. There's a couple other ones. I don't remember who now. Hayden Henry, which you played with his brother, I'm sure. That probably overlapped.
I played with Hayden too for a year.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So that'd be a blast, man. We'll have to make that happen for sure.
Be awesome.
Well, Frank, thanks so much for coming on, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Again, I know it's still show season. We've got a few more shows to go in this crazy madness. So find me at any show you're at. I'll be at SCI. I'll be at not Sheep. Sheep's going on right now. I'll be at Portland. I'll be at several different shows. So come and find me at a show. I'd love to sit down and talk hunting with you and swap hunting stories. If you're getting geared up and ready for turkey season this spring, good luck, and make sure and share those success photos with me because I'd absolutely love to see them. But guys, thanks for listening, and you guys have a great week.